As an actor in LA, if you're not creating, you're just waiting for an opportunity. And I got sick of waiting for an opportunity. And I've just seen over the few years how prevalent YouTube has been and how successful people have become from the platform. And then all these YouTubers started to get deals with studios and getting their own shows. And then I was just like, what am I doing? And then I just thought to myself, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should give this a shot. I've just gotten the bug for so long to create, but I've neglected it because of what I felt people would see me as, being that I wanted to pursue acting. And I just had to throw all my cares away and just dive into what was inspiring me. And just, highlighting African American culture is just something that I feel like it's only right for me to do.
What is going on? This is going to be a really, really fun interview with Mike Gray, who has had just a really amazing ramp up of his career. Like COVID was just a catalyst for things of changing what you were doing, which was acting, to becoming a photographer, and having conversations around this to inspire you, to challenge you that you can do this by putting in the work and putting in some creativity. But Mike, stoked to have this conversation, and thanks for sharing with all of us.
Of course, Braden. Thank you so much for having me. I've been following your channel for so long and been such a fan, and just being part of this right now is amazing to me. And thank you so much, man.
Well, let's talk. So you started out as an actor,
yes,
and got into photography. Well, we're gonna dive into some other stuff, you know. But just sort of why did you start taking pictures?
It was maybe 2 months into quarantine during COVID, and I just started watching YouTube, a lot of different YouTube videos, gaining inspiration because I was in my apartment with nothing to do, and it was literally driving me insane not being able to create something. And I just started watching your channel. I started watching Volandis, Willem, those guys, and just gaining inspiration and seeing how the switch happened with film and how prevalent it started to become, and how the industry just started to boom. I was just inclined to buy a film camera. I just wanted to just see what happened, So I bought a film camera and I just started taking pictures of friends. I had no idea what I was doing, just wanted something to do in that time with nothing to do. And I just shot more, and just certain things, paths aligned, and I met certain people, and I just practiced and honed in on the craft. And then I just decided to make YouTube videos because being an actor, I've always been into video and being in front of the camera, but I've always kind of wanted to learn all aspects. And as an actor in LA, if you're not creating, you're just waiting for an opportunity. And I got sick of waiting for an opportunity. And I've just seen over the few years how prevalent YouTube has been and how successful people have become from the platform. And it was funny because at first in LA, when I first moved, you couldn't be an actor and a YouTuber. You weren't taken seriously as an actor if you made YouTube videos. And then all of a sudden, there was a world in which something switched. And then all these YouTubers started to get deals with these, studios and getting their own shows. And then I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I've just gotten the bug for so long to create, but I've, neglected it because of, what I felt people would see me as, being that I wanted to pursue acting. And I just had to throw all my cares away and just dive into what was inspiring me.
Dude, love it. And what drew you to film, you think?
The process. Being that I had nothing to do, I bought my first film camera. I bought a Cinestill processing kit. I had nothing but time, so I was like, this would be so much more fun than digital, because I could have shot digital, years ago. But I love digital. You digital shooters, like, I love it. I'm looking for a digital camera. Digital is amazing. But being that I was stuck in my house, film was just such, what I was seeing on YouTube, it was such a personal experience. And I had nothing but time on my hands. So I wanted to learn the processing. I wanted to learn the scanning. And honestly, if I'm keeping it real, I was getting the stimmy. I was getting the stimulus check. We were getting all this money. So why not buy an Epson V600? Why not buy a Mac? Why not buy a film camera? Why not buy film? I mean, I'm getting money from the government for doing nothing. And I'm like, yo, I got a lot of it right now. So I'm going to invest in a new hobby. And that's just me keeping it all the way real. And I watched videos and learned how to develop myself because labs were closed. So the first maybe 6 months, I was shooting and processing and scanning all of my own film at the house as a newbie. And trust me, I made a lot of mistakes, but it was the best, route for me, because it really, just that process of being able to see something from start to finish was the primary reason why I fell in love with film photography.
Oh, huge. And for anyone that hasn't ever printed their own photos or printed in a darkroom, the learning curve of having to figure out, dodging and burning is when your highlights are too bright and you got to bring back detail, or your shadows are too dark. It's that taught me more than anything about film photography.
That's amazing.
Or just photography and exposing in general.
Yeah.
Something that you said that just I love, the Seth Godin. Have you ever read any of his books?
No.
Marketing guru, but he says often in his books, so many people wait to be picked. Like what you're talking about, the acting, it's this waiting game, but what you've got to do is pick yourself.
Absolutely.
And really that's what you did. And ultimately that's a big challenge to people out there. And a big part of why I wanted to have this conversation with Mike is he has not just picked himself, but gotten after it hard. And I want to jump fast forward into that to what you're doing now. Putting together sets with 20 people on set. You got set directors, you've got set designers, you've got you're talking about some of the photo montages you're doing and the sort of story behind them and the why behind what you're doing.
So starting with the why, I would say that just for me in general, just highlighting African American culture in a positive light is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And though there are so many amazing African American artists, photographers out there, I've had my own story that I wanted to push to the public. And being an actor and in the industry, you're around sets and you learn so many different things and so many different experiences from being on set. So I kind of naturally had that. So I was familiar with the casting process. So casting, models to fit, the roles that I needed, or hiring crew and building a set from scratch is something that I was familiar with. So I've taken my acting experiences and transitioned them into film. So that's why a lot of my videos and a lot of my shoots are kind of grabbing movie stills, because that's what has inspired me. That's why I wanted to act, because I've always just enjoyed cinema. And the majority of my shoots, I try to make as cinematic as I possibly can. But as far as the story, I love period pieces and I love, prevalent things in my community and in my history that have made, Black people who we are today and where and just honestly giving people the knowledge about our history. And especially during times like the last year that we've had with all the protests and things. And that was my first big picture. Well, I won't say big, but I took a picture at the George Floyd protest with my first film camera that I purchased, which was the Minolta X700. And I actually shot on Cinestill 50D. I remember I was watching a ton of Cinestill videos, and there was a picture that everybody thinks was staged. And it's, a group of people all throwing up Black Power with their fists in the air. And it was literally, we were on Beverly Boulevard marching down, and I was able to get a quick shot I had the Minolta on auto, of course. I mean, I did. But it was a photo that really made me realize what the stories that I wanted to tell. And it made me see the potential in myself, because I posted the photo and then Revolt and all these different blogs started to post it. And then I just thought to myself, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should give this a shot. And as an artist and as a creative, even just a human being in general, I feel like people can get inspirations and they'll, ignore them. And I've been in LA for 11 years. So I've been chasing this acting dream for so long, and I've gotten inspired to do other things, and I've just neglected them because I was so focused on one thing. And usually you get to the point where it's like, all right, I love this and I want this to work, but sometimes you got to change the route if it's not working, and you got to try something new. And you got to accept what your calling may be. Maybe the plan is to act in the future, but your calling is to create. And it was just simply me finding my calling and acting on it. And all of these ideas are things that I've always wanted to do with my period pieces, with like the Black Panther stuff that I do. And just, highlighting African American culture is just something that I feel like it's only right for me to do. So I know that's kind of a broad answer, but it's so many different variables in the reasons why I portray my art the way I do, and kind of how I got in that realm of wanting to do that sort of stuff.
What's amazing though about your calling and is that you're still acting.
Yeah.
Right? You're now, but what's been so incredible about just like the last handful of years is where there used to be so many barriers to be able to be in a place where you could direct and act.
Yeah.
Right? You had to be a part of a big studio. Mm-hmm. Where now it's like on YouTube, you can just, pick it up and do it.
Absolutely.
But you've been able to take that control where now you are directing. You've seen how it's done, mm-hmm. which is definitely helpful. And I've always recommended for people, like, I think it is a huge asset to be able to assist, to be able to see how things are done, so you're not having to reinvent these wheels.
Absolutely.
Because it's really easy to think small when you've only thought small, right? Like if it's, I'm dealing with some people on a whole other spectrum, but when let's say investing. Right? If I'm looking to invest in a house, like based on my own budget of what I can do, it's like I'm looking at a really like cheap investment home.
For sure.
Because that's all I can afford.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm talking with these other guys who the deals that they're making, their profits are in in the $50 million range. It's just like this whole other ball game where it's like you start to be able to play at this level. It's having the, like $1 million conversations versus like $100 conversations.
Absolutely.
And I'm using this as a metaphor, so don't make a bunch of lame comments about this, but it's the same, it's this metaphor in thinking small in your photography and going after only small things because you think it's all that you're capable of, versus being able to sort of change your mindset.
Wow.
Whether that's like from working with other people that are doing that or putting yourself around other people that are doing that, but to change, like we limit ourselves, right? And like what I'm wanting to like highlight to other people is like the limits that you've taken off of yourself and like gone for it.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's the stuff that I want to hear more of, is just how you're doing that. And I mean, you want to maybe talk about just even meeting Tyler Shields and how that has been probably even just like, I would imagine there's been a little bit of like helping taking off some of those limits by seeing like this stuff that he's doing.
Absolutely.
But maybe talk about that as a thing.
Absolutely. So like I told you before, during COVID, I was doing three things. I was in the house, I was shooting, and I was assisting Tyler. That's all that I was doing the entire quarantine. So, of course, learning from him and meeting him, which it's crazy, and I've told this story before, but in a short, a friend of mine who's also an actor was having production send equipment to his house because he didn't stop working during the pandemic. And Tyler just happened to be a DP for the spot. So Tyler's the only person that he knew who knew how to operate a Red camera. So I met Tyler on set, and I had no clue who he was. I literally was talking about my first film camera with a buddy, and then he had overheard me in conversation. He was like, "Oh, I do photos." I said, "Oh, really?" And he showed me his Instagram. I was like, "Oh, okay, all right." And then fast forward, he's like, I tell him that I just bought a Mamiya RB67. I had no clue how to work it. He's like, "You know what? You just got that camera. Come over to the house. I'll show you how to operate it." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I type in his address. He lives literally 5 minutes across the road. So it was the LA story that so many people move here to get, and it never happens. And for me, it was like, why couldn't this happen with me in acting? Like, why couldn't this happen in the field that I was here for? But, all right, I'm rolling with it. So photography it is. So I was assisting Tyler every other day on shoots, learning, just shadowing him, learning how he approaches the work, learning how he garners his ideas, learning how he executes different shoots. And with that, I didn't know how to set up a C-stand when I first met him. And just being hands-on helped me so much. And I get the comment, like I was telling you, that so many people feel that, I can't do it because I don't have a mentor of that caliber to do it. But as I was telling you, it's like, there is YouTube, there are books to gain into. I feel like for me, the most important variable is the idea. Okay, what is it that you want to take pictures of? Learning about how to execute. And ultimately, like I said, I learned so much from Tyler, but he can't put the camera up to my face and take the photo for me. I have to do that on my own. I had to gain an eye and just shoot and practice and practice and practice. And that's what he taught me was, "Oh, what are you doing? Oh, you're watching TV. Why aren't you shooting?" And I was able to realize you can't be great if you're just taking pictures here and there. If you want to be great and you want to get better at what it is you're doing, you have to hone in on that craft. You have to go out, and if you're not taking pictures of people, you have to just take pictures, and it's been great because, of course, I've been able to hop over, the beginning barriers. But ultimately, he's not making it easy for me. I had to do the groundwork, and I had to show him that this is really what I wanted to do. And it's crazy because photography is now my first love. Like, it's the priority. And I act and I audition still, but, learning from different people, and not just Tyler, learning about different photographers in the history, Gordon Parks, Richard Avedon, William Eggleston. Like, these guys are like people who I had no clue about. And all of these guys have had like some kind of influence in my art, whether it may be, one way or another, but just putting all of them in a bowl and just making something out of nothing and making your own unique art is something that can be difficult, and it was hard for me to find, because I'm not even gonna lie, you can hang around somebody and you can watch somebody shoot every day and be inspired by somebody and then shoot like them and want to shoot the same stuff as them. And I didn't want that to happen, because that's all I was around Tyler every other day. So I didn't want my photos to look like his just organically, because I'm like, I want to be myself. I want to be me. So it took a while to figure out the type of art that I wanted to do, but having him kind of as a leader and a mentor to help me navigate through different things was definitely a plus, for sure.
And some people might be watching and listening and saying like, "Oh, okay, that's why he's done so well."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's been a step, but I think that's just another excuse for people to not go and do the work themselves, mm-hmm. right? It's like maybe that was the push over the edge for you to like be like, "Oh, I can do this." Mm-hmm. But now you're watching this and you can see like, here's the push over the edge. Like, you can do this,
Absolutely.
Right? And so what does it look like to put together a shoot? Like, let's say you have an idea.
Okay.
Right? And you want to do a shoot showing the Black Kennedys, right? So maybe talk about that idea and then how you put it together.
So I've always, being from Dallas, Texas, I've always, talked about and heard and learned about the Kennedys. And I've always enjoyed their style. I've always enjoyed, the relationship between the two. And it's something that is just really close to home for me, the story and President John F. Kennedy and his wife. And I honestly just wanted to put some Black people in those shoes. And essentially I said I wanted to make I wanted to do a Black president in the back of the car with his wife, kind of like, just a celebratory, parade, that vibe. And then I thought to myself, why not base it around the Kennedys, kind of style them the same way. And I wanted to cast people who I felt would look very well together and who could, push the story forward just in the pictures. And, it was crazy because both of those people are my friends and they were just so down. Ashwell as well as Naira, they were just so down for it. And it was funny because that shoot taught me the power of spontaneity. And my favorite shot till this day is the shot from behind with them waving. And as I've said before, I shot about 3 rolls of the shot in front of the car, which is the driver and them waving in the back. And I took 2 frames of the behind the car shot because ultimately I wanted the front shot. And it was interesting because after that shoot, I had gotten my first set of contact sheets. And because I knew that I wanted to print this, I knew that I wanted to do something bigger with this. So I wanted to take the approach and get the contact sheets and really choose which ones I felt would be best. And I got the contact sheets and I just realized you have to be open. You can't be closed-minded when it comes to these shoots. And because with setting up a super conceptual shoot, you have the idea of the shot that you want beforehand. So once you get that shot, you have to be willing to get other shots and making the most of the experience. So we rented a car. We went and we rented a Cadillac DeVille. And all of this was stimulus, quarantine money. Okay, so that's people like, oh, so how did you get all this money? Man, I was getting paid by the government. I was investing that money while people were buying clothes and people were buying shoes and people were buying all these expensive things. I was literally investing all of that money into my art. That if you want to become successful and you want to see some sort of success, you have to be willing and taking the risk to invest it all in art. So that's what I did. I was renting expensive cars, exotic cars. I was buying wardrobe, and it was amazing because I got one shot that I knew I was going to get before, and then I got one of my most favorite shots that I've taken thus far. And yeah, it was an experience because I wanted to have movie style caliber sets with just the plan of taking photographs. And that was the reason why I did the diner. And, the Black Panther shoot that I just did were, a culmination of just different ideas, but I had more people. And I actually failed in the diner shoot. So not every shoot is gonna be a success. That's another thing. You have to be okay with learning and failing.
What failed about it?
The shot that I had planned, the initial shot was just a diner filled with people, celebrating, living life, just the beautiful life of a colors-only diner in the 1960s. And I put the pressure on myself, which it was a mistake that I learned from. I decided to do video and shoot a short film, as well as take the photo. And I didn't realize that 6 of the hours were gonna be spent on video, and I spent about 10 to 15 minutes on the photos. No, never do that. Because I prioritized the video over the photo when ultimately the picture was the most important thing. And that was the reason why everybody was together. So I rushed people. I wasn't paying attention to detail, the way somebody was sitting in the front, how people were in the background. It was just, I was rushing. And it was an eye-opening experience to me, because I was like, when I have an idea and I want to execute a photo, I need to focus primarily on the photo, and the video can come after. Even if I want to do a double day or schedule 2 days, one for video, one for photo. But, I took B shots, and that was the importance. And that's when I learned how important it is to take multiple shots. Have your hero shot, but have B shots. If I wouldn't have taken B shots, that video wouldn't have existed, and that we would have shot all of that for no reason. So the reason why I say it wasn't a fail to me, but it was just, it didn't work out how I initially planned, and I learned from it because, the hero shot wasn't the primary shot. The hero shot that I had in mind, that I conceptualized the entire shoot around, didn't come out how I wanted it to. That's why I say it was a failure in my eyes, but I learned so much from it.
Yeah, the whole preparation game of the setup of a shot, and when you have a lot of people involved, and if you're wearing all the hats, mm-hmm. I mean, that's where I've had to learn to, trying to shoot these videos while being the photographer, while being the director, while making sure it's too much.
It's a lot, man. It's a lot, but people, what I realize is people, behind the scenes don't realize, I didn't realize before I started doing YouTube videos, how much work goes into, that's why I respect so many creators like yourself, so many people on the platform, because you're not only taking photos, but people don't realize you're filming and editing and making a video as well. So it's a whole different ball game. So it was funny for me, because I'm like, these guys, when I first started, I was like, oh, this is easy, make a little video, take some photos, upload a video, couple videos a week, this is cake. And then I started shooting a video, editing the video, processing the photos, implementing them into the video, releasing the video, and then I'm like, dang, I don't have anything else to release. I don't have anything else to drop. What am I gonna do? I respect creators on a different level, because it isn't easy. You really have to love this to do it. You do.
Yeah, anything becomes a job too. It's to do it well, to be disciplined in creating, or just even as a photographer. I think there's so much to going back to the being picked, or picking yourself, is you have to self-assign, mm-hmm. right? If you're just waiting for someone to hire you, and those are the only photos that you're taking, you're going to stop getting hired less and less, because you have less and less content to do. Plus, if you're only I've shot commercially, I've shot weddings, I've shot a lot of different stuff, and if you're only photographing stuff you're getting hired for, it's really difficult to continue to build the brand, which is you. Mm. And there's a whole other element of shooting on a level of art, right? You're shooting stuff way different than I've ever shot, which is more conceptual and conceptual, I guess, would be more, and shooting it for art versus shooting it for a client. Mm-hmm. And those are different ballgames. But the challenge is, let's say someone doesn't have, the excuse that most people would say is, I don't have the budget. Right? Or why don't you tell me other excuses that you've heard from people?
I don't have the budget. I'm not inspired to think of any ideas. I don't have the gear. I don't know a world-renowned photographer. I just don't have somebody as my next door neighbor to help me. All of these are excuses that, should not hold an artist back, because anything is possible. Everything that I learned how to process film and scan film and shoot before I met Tyler because of YouTube, because of things that I searched. Anything you want to find is online. If you're not inspired, find a few photographers who you love, buy photo books, just gain inspiration from other people's work. That's the main thing. Like I said, I shot some of my favorite photos on a very cheap film camera. Like, you don't need the most expensive, extravagant camera to push the story you want to push. And for me, the idea is the most important. So buying photo books, looking online, looking at articles, reading things, learning about, different photographers who inspire you, is super important. And then going out and shooting. Even if you're not inspired, just grab the camera and go out and shoot something. And I can guarantee you'll go out and you'll shoot, and eventually something will click. Because I ultimately would have kept shooting if I wouldn't have met my mentor, if I would have kept shooting, and eventually, though, things wouldn't have moved maybe as fast as I would have liked them to, I still believe that photography would have been my calling regardless, just on the strength of how it made me feel. So I think that excuses is just a barrier. And, if you're not inspired or you don't have any ideas, buy photo books. Buy a camera within your budget that helps you, tell a story. Telling a story is the most simple, is not the most simple, but is the most important thing. And if, you can't buy a $5,000 Mamiya 7 and you can just afford a point and shoot, which point and shoots kind of are expensive nowadays, but you get the point. Like, just something that is in your ballpark, is in your budget, that helps you do what you want to do. And some of the best art and some of the best pictures are taken with nothing. So you don't need $1,000 budgets to get your point across. If you have it, great. If not, navigate and find other ways to tell a story.
So if you ever have the excuse that you don't have inspiration, I've got 2 books for you. I'll put links down below. The first one is called The War of Art by Steven Pressfield, and it is an unbelievable read for any creative. He's talking a lot about writing, but it's talking about the block, the writer's block, the creative block that we all talk about. It's this like evil presence and how to basically combat that. But then the other one is by Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love, famous book, but then she writes a book after that called Big Magic, which is talking about the writing process. And it's the big thing is, like, are you waiting for inspiration, or are you putting yourself in a position where then inspiration comes? And it's ultimately, the answer is you do the work and inspiration comes. You write every day, and then all of a sudden you have a book. You don't wait for the book to happen. You don't wait for the picture to happen. But by getting, there's a whole different animal of like coming up with like a huge shoot. But man, just get your friends together. Go. You don't have to have a big budget. I bet you can find a friend with somewhat of a cool car, and if not, maybe an old car, or if not, just like a car, and go put it in a location and shoot it. It's like, do something. If you do something every day, eventually you'll either like hone your craft, you'll build a style, or you'll come away with something great. But if you wait for that something great to happen, you're just going to keep waiting.
You're going to keep waiting. And to piggyback off of you, all of the people who are in my shoots are my friends. Every single one. So I have shot a few models, like maybe 2 or 3 who I've met recently, just because, they love the work. But everybody who is in my shoots, I've known for years and are just willing to help out. And honestly, they don't get paid. It's just the love for the art and them just wanting to help me out and being a good person. So I agree with you 100%. Get your friends, get the resources that you have around you, because if you don't ask, you won't know. So, yeah.
It's good, man. So with what are you working on now? So you've got the Black Panther project that's coming out.
Yes,
right?
that'll be coming out probably in the, sometime. I'm not sure. I've heard October, but I don't know.
Okay.
But soon. And I just have a few different conceptual shoots that I want to do. I'm going to be traveling a good amount the next month and a half. So, of course, I'm going to be getting content everywhere. I'm going back home, so I'm going to shoot some very southern stuff coming up in the next couple weeks. But I'm just in the mode of just trying to shoot as much as I can. And it's hard for me because I love setting up, the foundation with super planned out concepts. But moving forward, while I take breaks, because doing conceptual shoots back to back to back to back to back is draining. So I've kind of put up a method of like doing a conceptual shoot and just shooting people with no expectation and just, capturing people. That's what I want to do. Not necessarily street photography, because that's out of my wheelhouse, but more of the spontaneous stuff, catching somebody outside a gas station, getting cool shots, just capturing, life is something that I definitely want to dive more into while I take little breaks from the conceptual shoots, which I still have so many different ideas planned. But yeah, a lot of shooting coming up, and I'm super excited. I did recently get, not this bad boy, but the 500. So using that a ton, shooting some sick portraits with the Hasselblad. This will forever be used, but I have fallen in love with that camera so much. So I definitely plan on doing a lot of shoots with that moving forward as well.
Yeah, man. And there's something about picking up a different format that is really a big inspiration as well. Like if you've always shot 35 millimeter, then all of a sudden you pick up a Pentax 6.7. I mean, and this is the 45 millimeter lens. Is this what you mostly shoot on?
I shoot on the 90 actually. I did some shots with that lens, so I just kept it on there. But yeah, man.
Yeah, but it's such a fun format. But then now you're shooting Hasselblad, you're shooting square, right? Or you're shooting there's just so much that you can do just by picking up something different, shooting a different film, shooting black and white when you normally shoot color, shooting color when you normally shoot black and white, right? Or it's like shooting lifestyle when you normally shoot something big and set up. Like all these different things can help really expand, just like get you out of a rut maybe that you might have been in.
That camera got me out of a rut. Because I know I preach, photo books and gain inspiration, but even when you're achieving certain things, you can lose sight of what it is you want to do, or you can get in a creative block. And picking up a new format and a new camera, for me, it was more than just, I'm going to invest in a camera. It was like a refresher. It was, I need something that will give me the ideas and just force me to look at things differently. In 6.6 and the Hasselblad, it's a totally different setup. It's a totally different camera. So I was in that creative block with of course, I love the 6.6 or 6.7 format. I'm sorry. I love the 6.7 format, but I just needed something new and a new feel. And the Hasselblad 500 6.6, aspect ratio gave me that. And that's why I'm so excited about it, because I'm just, I've heard that Instagram isn't the biggest fan of 6.6, but, or the folks on Instagram, I can't lie, because, some of my photos that are 6.6 don't get as much love as the vertical 6.7, but it's fun. It's fun. And as an artist and as a photographer, it will definitely change your eye, because you can't shoot with that camera like you shoot with this. It's impossible. It is, but such a beautiful camera. And yeah, just gaining inspo through cameras, through whatever is super important. So I'm very excited. I just wanted to mention that, because it was here, I'm just so excited to use that camera more moving forward.
Love it. Well, I would love to hear from you. What is your typical go-to excuse? I don't want to just hear that down below. I want to hear your answer to it. What are you going to do? This is a challenge. What are you going to do to compete or combat that excuse that you make? Or even just sometimes you're just writing down a goal, writing down your thoughts, type it out there to say this is what I'm going to do. I'm always waiting for this, and now I'm going to go out and do that. would love to hear that, or something else that inspired you from Mike. But we are a shop. We sell cameras. We sell film at pretty much the best rates you can find out there, and try to just like, we're here to support the film shooting community. It's like made by photographers for photographers, and bringing on people like Mike to hopefully inspire you to get out there and shoot more.
Thank you.
But we're here as a resource to you. So use us. We're here, but Mike, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure, and I'm excited. I'm excited for the future. And yes, I will piggyback off of him. Film Supply Club. I have purchased a camera myself, so don't think that it's like, oh, he's talking, but camera's great. And I'm so excited for you and everything that you have going on as well. So thanks so much for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
All right, we'll keep on shooting film. Check out Mike's channel. We'll have links probably earlier, and also your Instagram is Mike Gray Film.
Yes, Mike Gray Film.
And just search Mike Gray on YouTube and it will come up, but you can also pop up and click that link there. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the next one.
Peace.